I want to take you now to the UK, where we're joined, of course, regally enough, by GB News host and Daily Mail columnist Dan Wootton. Dan, welcome to the program. I want to start with the migrant situation you're going through over there. Last year, there was at least one boat full of illegal migrants, largely, of course, from Africa and Albania, arriving on your shores every couple of days. Of course, the cost of all of this is out of control. We know this well in Australia. Your broken asylum system is costing the government around $3 billion a year, £3 billion, I might add, sorry, and that is £6 million a day on hotel bills to house all of these people. We know too, and we had the issue again, I'll say, in Australia until we stopped the boats, of people drowning as they attempt to cross the channel. Give us a sense of where the British people are at on this issue.
Absolutely furious, Peter. The Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has made one of his five pledges to the British people to change the laws to stop the boats. Now, that has spectacularly failed. The Conservative Party has been on notice over this issue for some time. I declared it a national emergency in 2021. That was before the numbers skyrocketed to over 40,000 a year. The Home Secretary herself, Suella Braverman, has said that there is an invasion of our southern border. I agree. But just last week, the courts, the left-wing, highly politicised British courts, dealt a hammer blow to Rishi Sunak's idea of a deportation scheme to Rwanda by declaring that country to be unsafe. Now, there are things that could be done, Peter. Your former boss, Tony Abbott, of course, successfully stopped the boats by providing a deterrent. The issue is that Rishi Sunak, who is a globalist politician, even though he is part of the Conservative Party, doesn't have the guts to leave the European Convention on Human Rights, which I now believe is the only way for this policy to be enacted. So this is a political disaster, but it's also, Peter, a humanitarian disaster for this country. You know, I spoke to a man called Peter Wallace on my show a couple of weeks ago. His son murdered, stabbed to death in Bournemouth by an illegal immigrant, Peter, who was led in the country despite being a double murderer himself. So this is a make or break issue for the Prime Minister, who has to start showing the same sort of courage that your former Prime Minister did.
I have to say, you talked about lack of guts there from Rishi Sunak, and if I had to say, the one thing that makes a difference with a policy like that is resolve. You have to have resolve. The bureaucrats, the justice system, human rights bodies internationally, every one of them will put up some sort of obstacle. And if you have resolve, you'll go over the top of that obstacle. You'll find another way. You will be absolutely determined that you decide who runs your country and, you know, polices your borders. But if you are a weak reed, you will fall over at that task. And I think that's the challenge the UK has. Talk to me about the royal correspondent, Valentine Lowe, and these claims that William and Kate, Prince William and the Duchess Kate, wanted a toughened up statement by the palace in response to that infamous Harry and Meghan interview with Oprah, where they implied it was racism that forced them to leave the UK. And the commentary I read over the weekend, that it was really Kate Middleton, the Duchess Kate, who put the steel in everyone's spine and pushed for the Queen to add in that very famous, I thought beautifully apt line, recollections may vary.
Indeed, this is absolutely fascinating stuff, because for a long time, Kate has been viewed as a quiet force within the royal family, someone who is, by her own proclamation, very happy to let her hubby, Prince William, take the lead. Behind the scenes, that is certainly not the case. I was the first to reveal many years ago now that Kate was the first person to actually call out Meghan for her terrible behaviour towards staff members when she was within the royal family. Now this astonishing new book reveals it was actually Kate, rather than the late Queen, as you say, that insisted that the royal family had to fight back against the untrue allegations of racism put out there into the ether in that despicable tissue of lies Oprah Winfrey interview by Harry and Meghan. And you know what, Peter? She was right to do so, because what we've seen over the past few months is that gutless little Prince Harry roll back on Meghan's claims, but actually not be prepared to say, look, she got it wrong, he said, oh, actually, we were just talking about unconscious bias. No, you weren't. You were talking about royal racism. You allowed the late Queen and you allowed Prince Philip to die with the world believing that the royal family was racist and there was a racist within the royal family. I think it is totally wrong. And Kate was right.
It is absolutely wrong, but you have got her measure. I read all of your columns in the Daily Mail. Dan Wootton, thank you as always.